All right, we are live. I hope we just spent 2 minutes talking to ourselves, so we're 2 minutes late. Welcome, everybody, to Talkin' Investing. We got a big show today. It was a big week. It was a good day for Bitcoin. It was a good day for almost all the Bitcoin miners. We got a glut of information this week. We got jobs for January. We got jobs for 2025, which was last year. We got CPI data today. And a couple other special things to talk about. So, big episode. Do us a favor. Smash the like button if you can, if you are willing. George, what's going on?
I think everybody's missing the boat, Tom. I think Bitcoin's going to be the biggest asset class of growth this year. I think we got Bitcoin's going to go nuts. I think XRP, I think all the altcoins, I think people are really not reading what's going on. And I think they're going to miss a lot of opportunities a lot of money's going to be made this year.
So we're going to go look at the altcoins because obviously we're very Bitcoin centric here, but we do like to look at the altcoins as well. We've got our list of stocks we'll go through, and the altcoins are in a full blown crypto winter. There's just that's something we are in the middle of. So the question is, what comes next? I'm hearing optimism out of you, George, right now.
Tom, I think this is going to be the dupes of all dupes.
So you think that this downward pressure is a fake out?
I think it's a fake out, Tom, and I think you got what? Well, let's hear what you guys have to say. I'm going to do a poll. I've switched it over to poll. Bitcoin going up, going down. What's it going to do?
What's going on? And if you guys just joined us, if you could hit the like button, the thumbs up button, it would be appreciated. It helps the stream out in real time. We started the stream a little later today on the advice of ChatGPT. So let us know in the chat section if you guys like this time better or if you like a little earlier. I see people talking about a dead cat bounce. Let's get into some stuff here. So you can see this is the 15-minute time frame that you're looking at right here. We were fighting this line all day. So I don't know. This fight is not over. So we'll see. It looked like we were maybe finding some support here. This line, by the way, is $69,000. $69,000.00 was the high of the 2021 cycle. So we not only retested that high, but we went below it, which we've done in every cycle. So the question is, are we in a cycle? Is the cycle the same? Is the cycle different? And that's what we're going to get into because as we've been talking about here, I think the 4-year cycle is over, and that doesn't mean every single aspect of it ceases to exist. But I think it's going to look very different this time than it has in the past. And the reality is, if you look at the data, it's already performed very differently than previous 4-year cycles. So I think we are bottoming out as well. George, you're super optimistic. I would not be stunned if we went and retested 60 again. I don't think we're going to. I think we had every indication that there was capitulation last week at $60,000 across the board. But obviously, you don't know. I mean, we got back to 65,000. Yesterday, when the U.S. equity markets closed, Bitcoin was at 65,000. So, it's not insanity to think it could go retest 60. But if it does, that'd be a double bottom. I just feel like that's the floor. But we're going to go through a lot of articles talking about going lower than that or much lower than that. So there's a drum beating out there that, it's the end of the crypto world. And by the way, we're going to look at the crypto fear and greed index, and that is very telling. So I think everything is pointing towards we are making a bottom, picking the day. I don't know. Was it last week? Is it next week? But I'm with you, George. I think by the end of this year, I think Bitcoin's going to be way up.
Well, and I think too that we forget how quickly Bitcoin moved down is how quickly Bitcoin can move up. We forget this, and scarcity. And if there is a Clarity Act bill ever passed, which now they're saying maybe the end of April, early May, if that ever does pass, I think there's a lot of opportunities here, Tom, that people just don't realize. I think this could be life-changing opportunities, is what I'm saying. And when you know how hard it is, they're going to make you pay for it, because there's only really one way to become, independent, and that's through the stock market right now. And I think crypto is going to be another way to become independent.
And it's what you said. We're still in, for all the cycles we've been through, we're still very, very, very early in adoption. But this cycle has seen more adoption by far than all the other cycles put together. This cycle has seen more money go in by magnitudes than all the rest of the cycles put together. We've seen ETFs created. All you have to do is type in tokenization, and you're going to see every banker in the world predicting that ultimately every asset on earth is going to be tokenized. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, and to what extent that happens and how long it takes to happen, but money is just starting to come into this. I do think there's going to be winners and losers. I think you've got your premium, gold level coins, and then you've got a tier below that. You've got some meme coins that are going to always do their crazy thing. And then I think you're going to see a lot of these other coins fall away over, the next probably 4 years.
Well, Tom, I've been finally paying some bills. And when you use a credit card, nowadays, for some reason, they put it on top of the fees. Okay, I had to pay an IRS bill. Everybody knows who that is. And you had to pay money on top of your taxes. It's like, well, what the hell are taxes for? That is all wasted money. And this is why this is so complicated. Do you think whoever owns Visa or MasterCard or whoever is making that money wants to lose that money, Tom?
I think that between Visa and MasterCard, you're talking about two companies that have a market cap of over $1 trillion, and they are going to fight tooth and nail. And oh, by the way, that's nothing compared to the rest of the banking community, the investment community, that until they've got their piece of this puzzle, they do not want this taking off. So they continue to beat it down. We just hit 60,000. I got to believe a lot of people quietly backed up the truck. We did see for the first time in a long time, the large wallets, the whales, bought, I think, $4 trillion last month, while people,
$4 trillion?
Wrong. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
$4 billion.
Okay. I only thought it was a little bit over $1 trillion asset.
That was, I was talking about 10 years from now.
Well, and here's the other thing too. It's gotta have its run. What I mean by that is, look at what silver did. Silver's just, even though it's come down some, silver and gold has been amazing.
Silver and gold, right. And silver, if you got in late, you just got crushed. But the reality is, if you got in any time over the 15 years before that, you're still up 100%, 200%, 300%. So silver's been spectacular. Gold has been spectacular. Bitcoin's lagged behind, but I think it's our turn next. And I think that's going to be a good thing for Bitcoin. I think it's going to be a good thing for the top quality blockchains. And I think it's going to be a very good thing for the Bitcoin miners, which we now refer to as the Bitcoin miners and, the data center power companies, because that is really what they are trading on right now. I can tell you the way that I'm looking at this, and as I'm doing valuations of these companies, pretty much most of these companies are being deeply, deeply discounted, and their Bitcoin mining operations are counting for next to nothing as a portion of their market cap versus the companies that are ahead, that have diversified into the high performance computing, into the data center, that have signed contracts, that have revenue coming in. Those companies are being priced at premiums, and I think we've only just begun that. Now, almost every single one of the Bitcoin miners has now diversified, but they're all at various different stages. Some of them just changed, finally jumped on the bandwagon. Others, led. I'll just tell you, IREN was first in on this. They are by far the biggest market cap out of all these companies, which is staggering because they used to be, I think, in 11th or 12th place from a market cap standpoint, and now they're in first place. And not only are they in first place, they're triple the market cap, almost triple the market cap of the second place company on this list. And TeraWulf and CIFR are perceived to have a first mover advantage as well. So those have been running, and I expect those to continue to run. But I do think by the end of this year, for these stocks, you're going to get the AI bump, and we're going to talk about the AI, the alleged AI bubble, and you're going to get the Bitcoin bump, in my opinion. Now, I know some of you disagree looking at this poll. Let me just go to Sour Melon Gaming. Thank you for being a longtime member, and thank you for the super chat. And Sour Melon Gaming said, thank you all. Thank you both for what you do. We appreciate it. Well, thank you, Sour Melon Gaming, for being a member. We appreciate that.
This is a good poll. Almost 70% think it's going a little higher. How much higher, we don't know, but at least 70,000.
So that's encouraging. I mean, we're knocking on the door of 70,000, but it would be a big deal to break above that. And we're going to talk about that $70,000 to $80,000 range where there's not much support, but there's not much resistance either. The two times we've been in that range, on the way up, we passed through that range in 5 days. On the way back down with the pullback here, we passed through that range in 5 days. So that's the jump from 70 to 80 could be quick, and that's something I would watch out for.
Well, and didn't you say, Tom, that from 60 to 70, it's only been here for 10 days before?
But that from 70,000 to 80,000.
Oh, 70 to 80.
It's only spent about 10 or 15 days in its history. So I'll go to the other.
Thanks, AAA Ron.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. I kind of blocked out $10,000 increments. And you can see this red right here is $70,000 to $80,000. And the thing about that is, okay, so prior to here, we never traded it in the history of Bitcoin. We hit an all-time high, and you can see we had a few days that we bumped up against this, and then we went below it. So it was resistance. As soon as we crossed it, I could zoom in and count this out, but as soon as we broke through this, it was only 5 days from 70,000 to 80,000 right here. And that was back in November of 2024. Well, this held as a very strong support until it finally broke in January of 2026, at which time, in 5 days, it went from 80,000 to under 70,000. So it just doesn't trade in that range, and we're stuck right below that range right now. We're hanging out very close to 69,000, which was the high from not this cycle, but the previous cycle back in 2021. So I do think there's the potential for a burst back into what was a trading range that we were in for months and months and months. This started in November of 2024, and it lasted until January of 2026. I mean, that's a 15-month trading range that we've popped out of for only really a month. And my sense is, I think we're going to jump right back into that trading range. And
this is going to be a crazy one that I'm going to tell you. You guys, you know me, I'm crazy. You're going to love it. I hope you love it. But there is a astrological event that's happening.
Oh my!
It is a once And it kind of happens every 39 years, 38 years, but this is a once in a 6,000-year event where all the planets align. And I think, that changes stuff. I know people think that I talk about this stuff all the time, but it's always when there's a full moon or not a moon at all or a new moon. This is when this stuff happens. And when you have a once in a lifetime, once in a many lifetime event, that's when these things tend to move. I'm saying they tend to move. You just don't know which way they're going to move. And they're going to move violently, either up or down. I just don't know which way they're going.
And it's not a coincidence, and it's not a conspiracy. Right? No. Everybody knows these dates. So
you just don't know which way they're going.
Right. That's right. I believe, well, let's talk about what everybody thinks here. Let's look at the poll. Is Bitcoin moving up or down? So 70,000 next, 37% of you, which is, we're knocking on the door. So that means you think we're going up a little. 75,000 or above, 30%. Now on the flip side, 65,000, we got 7% that think we're going to retest that. However, we do have 26% that think we're going lower than 60,000. So we're all over the place, and I love results like this because what it says is what is priced in right now is mass confusion. Right? This is a very good sample group of people that are anywhere from reasonably familiar with Bitcoin and the related stocks or extremely familiar with. And even this group, when it's this kind of split, that's the kind of uncertainty we're living in. And I'm going to go right to it. And later I'm going to get to the thing that I believe the market has completely wrong. I have not forgotten that. We're going to talk about that because I think it's the thing that dictates the next move up in a big way. And I scratch my head and we'll do a poll and see if you guys disagree with me or not. But this boggles my mind how my opinion can be so different than what's priced into the market. But first, let's go look. I want to take a look at the fear and greed index because
Tom, before you do that, please hit the like. Share it if you can. I don't know. Share it. Share the stream. Why don't you?
If that's a thing, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't even know if it is. I've heard people can share things. In 92 days, tell me if you guys know what happens. 92 days. Well, I don't think it's 92 days. I think it's less than 90 days, to tell you the truth. I think it's 90 days today.
All right. Well, you can guess that in the chat. And George, you can let us know in a couple minutes what that is. Meanwhile, I want to show you the fear and greed index because something happened yesterday that has only ever happened a few times in history, and it's only ever happened at the very bottom of the crypto winter. So we are at 9 today on the fear and greed index. Yesterday, we were at 5.
Wow.
That matches the all-time low in the history of the fear and greed index for cryptocurrency.
How do they determine the fear and greed index?
There's 7 or 8 different factors that go into this. They each are ranked from 1 to 10, and then they combine all of that. Some of it has got to do with social media. Some of it's got to do with the market. We could, if you want, next time I could have the methodology pulled up so that people can see. But it's 8 or 9 different variables, and 5's the magic number. We've never gone below it. So
we've never had a 4?
We've never had a 4. We've had 5, I think 4 or 5 different days we've hit 5. And yesterday was one of them. So this is
I'll be 90 days older. It's major, major stuff in 90 days, by the way. Major stuff. Go on. Sorry.
That's all right. So just because we hit 5 yesterday doesn't mean yesterday was the bottom, right? I actually think the bottom was several days ago, but it does indicate we're going through a bottoming process. And again, that's why I talked about, don't try to guess. I'm going to go to a Tom Lee article where he talks about this. Stop trying to guess the bottom. Right? Just buy the dip. This is not financial advice. I'm not telling you that. But that is what I do, and that's what Tom Lee. Let me see if I can find his article. I won't get too sidetracked.
Katie was right, guys. Katie's right. 90 days is.
Oh, George!
Na.
Hey.
Goodbye.
And Katie and George. So congratulations, Katie and George. That ties directly into what I think the market is radically pricing incorrectly. So we'll talk about that. Maybe we could talk about that next. But I want to just pinpoint some of these things. It is meaningful that we hit the all-time most extreme fear. And remember, nothing's really going on right now. So,
what do you mean nothing's really going on? We're on the verge of a civil. I mean, it's not a civil war, a war with other countries.
You're right.
There's massive chaos in the news right now, Tom. Everybody's talking about this crazy thing that happened.
So, okay, true. So let me rephrase that completely. There's a ton going on, but we are now living in a day and age where we are just getting inundated with data. Nothing specific is going on in geopolitics that's like imminent or pending or happened and obviously we'll go back to, we had a couple of couple of different financial crises where the stock market the bottom fell out. We had certain virus that the bottom, I mean, in a few days, the bottom just fell out of the market. The entire market fell. Bitcoin dropped down to like $3,000. It was the other times we've had moves like this, the other times we've been this oversold, this far into fear and greed, you could really point to one thing and go, man, I get why everybody's in a total panic. They just shut every store in the country. And we don't know when they're going to open them back up. That's a panic. I get it. Nothing like that is happening right now.
I still want to know they're going to open up, Tom. They won't sit down.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of them didn't make it to the other side of that. So
it's really sad when you think about that. I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was a once in a life. That's not even a once in a generation. That's happened one time since the stock market existed. We didn't even, we've had scenarios where many magnitudes more people were affected by onset of disease and spread of disease. And we didn't shut the world down. We didn't shut this was a once in a lifetime response. And I'm pretty comfortable we're never going to do that again. So never say never. I get it. But I think the odds of something like that happening again, even if the same thing were to happen, the reaction, I believe, this time would be dramatically different. So that's my opinion. And yeah, I see some people, Doug, talking about every month Tom Lee says by the end of next month, Bitcoin's going to be at 150,000. Tom Lee is the ultimate bull on a lot of things, including Bitcoin, including Ethereum. So I get that. I understand that. But his point is most people's point is if you're trying to pick the day that's the bottom, the only thing I can say is genuinely good luck. Good luck with that. I know I can't. I know I see a lot of signs that we're in a bottoming out process. I think when we look at the 1 day, I'll go look at it right now. When we look at the 1 day, I can tell you, you had this day right here. This is February 5th. Today's February 13th. February 5th, we had the biggest red candle we've ever had in the history of Bitcoin. Once again, no specific news on that day. Oh, by the way, if I turn the volume on, astronomical volume, the biggest volume we've had in years. The second biggest volume we had in years was the next day when we had the biggest green candle we've ever had in the history of Bitcoin. So monumental volume 2 days in a row, an extreme sell-off, an extreme bounce back. Those are all signs of capitulation and a bottom. More so than that, you had the daily RSI. I've drawn a red line here. It was at 15.85. Remember, 30. For those of you who know the RSI, it's just essentially the relative strength index. It just measures whether a stock is closer to overbought, technically speaking, or oversold. And, this is big picture. This is fairly accurate over periods of time. It's not something you can day trade, but we got down to this. This was tied right here. This Thursday, February 5th, was tied for the second worst day on the daily RSI in the history of Bitcoin. Not in a while, not this year, in the history of Bitcoin. It just doesn't get down here. So you've got the RSI at historic low levels. You've got volume at historic high levels, and you've got monumental back-to-back days of two of the biggest candles in the history of Bitcoin. So is that going to be the absolute bottom? Is there zero chance we're ever going to retest? I said, I think, it's entirely possible we could go retest this bottom. I find it hard to believe we're going to go take this out. And I understand that could happen too, right? We don't know what happens in the short term. But if it does, I will just keep averaging in. That's my personal sense is Bitcoin long term, these numbers are a joke. And it's going to much, much higher places as time goes by. So if I miss it by a day, a week, a month, 3 months, who knows? If we haven't learned that lesson over the last few years, right, then we're not paying attention.
That's minor, sorry. I never recheck anything. I just put a new poll up. Best valued stock in AI, a Bitcoin miner. This is one of 3 polls. We can't get them all together. So I did Marathon, IREN, Wolf, and Bitfarms.
So we'll do a little round robin. The winners will So let's go through, while you're doing that, let's go through and talk about what... You got something else?
No, I was trying to remember Bitfarms' new name. What is it? Cree?
Well, it's still Bitfarms for now.
Okay.
So,
Cree?
Keel, I think?
Keel?
I could be making that up.
Maybe it's Peel.
So let's take a look at what the Bitcoin miners did this week, this month, this year, just to get a sense of what's going on. And then I want to look at some charts. Okay, so here's this week. You had your winners and you had your losers. And these flip-flopped. Let me just fix the color. So you got Bitcoin and gold. Bitcoin was down 2% this week. Little bit of a pullback in Bitcoin. It's been going back and back. You're going to see year to date, it's much worse than that. But we kind of had the haves and the have-nots this week. TerraWolf and CIFR skyrocketed this week, up 14 in a week that Bitcoin's down 2%. TerraWolf was up 14%. CIFR's up 11%. There's a very specific reason for that move, which we're going to talk about next. You'll see 2 at the bottom. ABTC. I've added, by the way, I've added 2 companies to this list by popular demand. One is Microstrategy, which we talk about, but has not been on the list. So I put it on the list. We're going to track that's performance. Also, I did just reopen a position in it on the 5th. So we're going to track that one. And then I added ABTC, That is the spin-off. That's Hut 8's old Bitcoin mining division. They're still the majority shareholder in that company to the point where they actually consolidate it into their financial statements. It is also heavily affiliated with Donald and Eric, our Junior, Don Jr., good point, and Eric are, on the board. I think that Eric might be the CEO, but the majority shareholder, and it's not close, is Hut 8. So, but they're a straight, ABTC is a straight Bitcoin mining play. They're hodling Bitcoin. They've got about 6,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and they're at about 25 exahash, although they do not put out monthly operational reports. And we're going to talk about that because this is an era that is ending. One by one by one, we are losing everybody from reporting their Bitcoin operations. Now, I wonder if 6 months or a year from now, when it benefits these companies to talk about being a Bitcoin miner, if all of a sudden we're going to see these come back. Right now, most of these companies are trying to distance themselves from being associated with Bitcoin, despite the fact that it's the vast majority of every single one of these companies' revenue. And that will change. A lot of these companies have picked up multi-billion-dollar data center contracts. So a lot of these companies, that equation is going to change at some point, maybe even in 2026. The power data center AI portion of the revenue could potentially pass the Bitcoin revenue. But for 2025, it was not close for any of these companies. They were all, Bitcoin was the vast majority of their revenue in 2025. So ABTC, that's a new one to the list. It's fairly new company. It just spun off a little while ago from Hut. And then BitDR got destroyed this week. And I want to go through that on earnings. So I'll tell you guys right now, that is what I bought this week. I bought BitDR. And I'm going to go through why. And I just think everybody is missing the forest for the trees on BitDR. And it's not the only one on this list. I bought a bunch. Last week is when I made my big purchases. And then I thought on the 5th when things bottomed, or at least local bottomed, and I didn't really plan on buying anything this week, but with a 20% pullback in BitDR on what I thought was actually good earnings. So I'm going to go through that. I thought their earnings report was good. I don't understand what people are thinking on that. So I guess I'm just a contrarian on that. We'll see what you guys think about it. We'll do a poll on that one. And I see Doug saying, Mara's ready to come out of hibernation. $100 conservative. Let's go. Hey, no one would be happier than me because I've been dollar cost averaging in the marathon. I stopped like a month ago because, enough is enough. But I got dollar cost averaged into that all the way along. And actually, I did buy on the 5th. I bought some marathon for $6.97 on February 5th. So that was last week. And then I bought some more for $7.10 later that day. So I just think those numbers are ridiculous for that company. I think we're going to look back and go, well, this was in the $6, $7 range. It's madness. Unless you think they're going to fail. It's right now, several of these companies, Marathon right now is absolutely, completely priced to fail. They are valuing the value, their market cap is significantly less than the value of the Bitcoin that they hold, even with Bitcoin at these very low prices. So the entire organization is being valued at negative right now. And while I don't think that they have been the greatest at execution, I think they're way late to the party on high performance computing, but they're in. And they will have an announcement. It's been now like over 95 days since they've had a press release. So that's the longest they've gone since the day they started mining Bitcoin. This streak right now is the longest they've ever gone without putting out a press release. So I think that silence is deafening. It's getting the stock beat up right now. But I think it's why I think people are missing the big picture on that one, in my opinion. And there's a bunch of these. Pogo said, Mara, oh, Mara. I get it. And I see Robbie saying, yeah, he got in at $6.98. Yeah, I mean, time will tell, but I find it unthinkable that that wasn't a good purchase. Mar is absolute trash. I did see Fred yesterday come out and say he thinks Bitcoin is about to skyrocket. Now, that and $6 will get you a cup of coffee now. Oh, for whatever that's worth. Let's take a look at this poll, and then maybe we can get to the next group, because it looks like we've got a dominant winner in this poll.
Dominant.
IREN at 54%. Marathon,
that is the one I picked.
Marathon in second place at 20%. So the question was, the best value stock in AI or Bitcoin miner stocks, one of 3 polls, because we're going to do the rest of the companies in the other polls. So out of this group, I mean, it's no contest. IREN got more than half of the votes, 54%. Second place, Marathon, but only edging out Bitfarms. Marathon 20% now, Bitfarms 17%. TeraWulf, very surprising to me. TeraWulf in last place at 9%. That's a little bit of a surprise.
Well, maybe what it is they just like people to believe in IREN more, you know what I mean?
I mean, clearly IREN dominated this one. And I'm going to keep track, because this time we're not going to be able to take the top 2 from each, because there's too many. So we're going to take either 1 or 2 from each group. Marathon is in second place at 22%. We'll see how the other groups do. Should we end this one and go to the next group? So
Yes.
IREN, which is already by far the highest market cap company out of all of these, it's not close. People are still more bullish on IREN than anything else that we've shown them so far. Next, we'll do the next poll. Let's see what you guys think of the next ones. And at the end of this, obviously, this is a round robin. We'll have all the winners face off against each other and see which is the ultimate stock that you guys think is a bargain right now. Sourmelon Gaming says, sorry to the Mara lovers here, but that company is trash. Fred's done a terrible job. Listen, I'm not going to ridicule anybody that feels that way. The stock performance of that company, it's the worst performing stock over the last 2 years out of all of these stocks. It's in last place in performance. It's the only one of these stocks that's red in my portfolio, and it's not red a little bit. I've been even with the dollar cost averaging in that I'm doing, I am not close to break even on Marathon. So am I going to end up being wrong on that one? I don't know. I don't think that they have to. I don't think Marathon has to be an A company in execution to double or triple. I think they need to be a C. If they can be a C, it's my opinion that company is going to double or triple in stock price. Okay. Sorry, Sourmelon Gaming. I missed your super chat. CleanSpark is in late stage hyperscale negotiations. That's per Matt. So I bought CleanSpark on February 5th as well. That one, I dollar cost averaged up, but it was still, I mean, a couple of these, to be fair, CleanSpark and Bitfarms I bought the most throughout crypto winter. So I was getting those for pennies on the dollar. I was getting those down 95%, 97%. So, but CleanSpark did get down far enough that I had to buy some on the 5th. I haven't bought CleanSpark in a while, but it did get low enough. And I do think, so Matt is saying they're in late stage hyperscale negotiations. All they got to do is make one announcement that they got, $1 billion plus contract. And I think you're going to see them take off. I like that company. It's one of my positions, not financial advice. You guys do you, but I've been on board. I'm not going anywhere. I've been on board with them for a long time. That's a company that I think is much better at executing, in my opinion, than Marathon. But like I said, even if Marathon can just be average, I really think they'll double or triple.
Just be average, Tom.
I mean, that's setting the bar pretty low. I don't know how many likes we have. If you guys could hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, feel free to subscribe. We do this every Friday. We also talk to the members every Tuesday after the market closes. How many likes do we have, George? Do you know?
80, 60, 100. I turned it on your page, so I have to change it off of your page.
Oh, okay. Let's find out. We're trying to get 100 likes while we're live. We used to get double, triple, quadruple that, but
56.
56. We need help. Please smash the like button. That's all I'll say. Old Jock, 55 in May. 55K in May. Well, in May, that's a long wait. I mean, I'm never going to argue with somebody's take, because if we've learned anything in the short term, Bitcoin can go anywhere. But I'm still very bullish on this year, mostly the second half of this year, mostly to what George talked about earlier. We are 90 days away from Jerome Powell no longer being chairman of the Federal Reserve. And to me, that will be, with all the other massive things happening this year, that will be the number one thing that affects the stock market and the world's economy in 2026, in my opinion. That's my opinion, and I can tell you, pretty much everybody disagrees with me. So I'm going to go through that. That's what the thumbnail was about. I said, I think the market is completely wrong on this issue. And
Isn't it sad that you think about that? Everybody's been waiting for that to happen. And I would imagine that's going to be very helpful to the economy. If not, I think the economy's screwed.
Well, before I go, yeah, but here's why I think the market is, I think, intentionally wrong. I think big money is intentionally misleading people. I'm going to go to, you guys are probably familiar. This is the CME Fed Watch tool. So this is talking probabilities, and this is based on what's actually happening in the market, what's actually happening in trading. Not, this is not a prediction market. This isn't people putting money on one thing or the other. So what is the likelihood that the Fed will change the federal target rate at upcoming FOMC meetings, according to interest rate traders? So there you go. This is based on the actual CME trading markets. Use the Fed Watch to track the probabilities of changes to the Fed rate cut. This has been very accurate in the past. I'm about to tell you that I think it is very inaccurate right now. I think this is the most wrong this has ever been. I don't think it's a coincidence. And after we do all these polls and get through the stocks, I'd like to come back and see what you guys think about this. They're pricing in a less than 10% chance of a Fed rate cut in the March meeting. I'll take it a step further. There's no chance. we're not getting a cut in March. We should be. If I was the new chairman of the Fed, I'd cut 50 basis points in March. So, I guess nobody would vote for me, but that's what I think is in order right now. But instead, we're going to get zero. Jerome Powell's made it pretty clear that for what I won't try to assume I understand what his motivations are, but he believes that inflation is by far the biggest risk in this economy, which is laughable. CPI data came out today. We're going to talk about it. That is the most ridiculous underlying assumption that I could possibly imagine. And when are they going to stop pretending that the boogeyman is around the corner? I've had it. And by the way, when inflation was here, all they did was pretend it wasn't here. Oh, this is transitory. This is transitory. Pay no attention. Oh, we're over 9% inflation. Don't worry about it. They didn't even start raising rates until after that. So they ignored it when it was real. And now it's all they want to talk about. And it's been gone for years. So welcome. I want to welcome a new member to the Talkin Investing Squad. So we're here Tuesday after the market closes. And next Monday, the markets are closed in the United States for President's Day. So they'll trade on Tuesday. And then after that, we'll get together with the members and talk. It
is true. Tom could be Fed chair. I don't think you'd want that job, but
that's what got to be one of the most thankless jobs there is out there. And I understand. I'm one of the ones sitting here second guessing, but I can't take it anymore. I think we've had some pretty decent Fed chairs over the years.
Did you like Ben?
I thought Bernanke was a pretty reasonable Fed chair.
I just can never get that when he sat there in front of Congress and said what he said. I'll never forget that. I thought the last good was Alan Greenspan, by the way. That was who I thought was.
Greenspan's the gold standard.
Yeah, he really knew what he was doing.
You're 100% right. I think everybody kind of considers that the gold standard.
Yeah.
I thought Bernanke was just fine. I think this has been a train wreck. We're 3 years into. I mean, it's
Tom, just answer me this. How can you be fine with that when he gave $10 trillion to the European, and he's like, we'd like some accounting of that. He goes, I just gave you the accounting of it. So, and that was it. You know what I mean?
Listen, the Federal Reserve is a black box. I know, I get it. We don't know what goes on behind the window. They have what's called an infinite balance sheet. They can print as much money as they want. But what I try to look at is their monetary policy is supposed to do two things. Keep inflation in check and keep the job market healthy. Those are their two mandates. Now, number one, I think those mandates are now obsolete alone in a vacuum. And I have almost 40 trillion reasons why that's true. And that's the national debt. So that now has to be on the table as one of the things the Federal Reserve is taking into account when making monetary policy. They can pretend it's not, but it is. Because I can tell you, if we go on at these rates, and they're talking about raising rates, we'll be paying half of every dollar to just pay interest on our debt. If we refinance all of our debt, if we go through this cycle long enough where, the 5 years, the 10-year, the 20-year notes are all refinanced, if we're at a point where 70 or 80 or 90% of our debt is at these big, big numbers, we're in big trouble. And we're already in big trouble because this is the first time in the history of the world the United States is going to pay over $1 trillion in interest this year. That's money. You know what we get for that money? Nothing. That's right. Zero. So
I guess we get to remain a country.
I guess that's it. And there's and I'm not saying all hope is lost. This is a long-term problem. It requires a long-term solution. It's not going to be fixed overnight, but you want to start trending in the right direction instead of continuing to accelerate in the wrong direction. And one of the things that we need in the meantime is low interest rates. And so I can tell you, we're going to get them. That's my opinion. And you can see, I'm going to go to forget this next meeting. We're not getting one at the next meeting. This is still a Jerome Powell meeting. They're putting a 26% chance, and it's because of today's. We're going to go look at today's CPI numbers next. It's because of today's numbers that they're putting even this at 26%. This should be at 100%. Then in June, we will have a new Fed chair. We know who that is. I'm going to talk about that because this is another thing I think is a part of the same puzzle that everyone is being fed misinformation on, in my opinion. So now we're up to 50 plus 15. We're just under 70% chance of a rate cut. Maybe even a 50 basis point rate cut at that point, or 225s. So by June, the market's convinced. But by the end of the year, you're talking, they're still pricing in a 16% chance of 25 basis points of rate cuts this year. This is 50 basis points, and this is 75 basis points. That's 80% chance that it's going to be 75 basis points or less. I will tell you, I would put my money on one of these two categories right here. 225 or 2. And it's probably not this one, it's probably this one. But they're pricing in a 4% chance of the one that I think is the most likely case scenario. 2.5 would be 100 basis points. I would be stunned if we didn't do at least 100 basis points between now and the end of the year. And I think we will do 125. That's my opinion. We're going to do a poll later to see if you guys think I'm nuts. The market thinks I'm nuts. The market thinks there's a 4% chance of that happening, which baffles me. Because if we look, this week we got jobs numbers and inflation numbers. Those are the two mandates of the Federal Reserve. We got data on both of those. Let's take a look. First, jobs. Okay, right off the bat. Misdirection. Confusion. Intentional. This headline is what dominated. Jobs, a surge of 130,000 U.S. hires last month is a stark contrast to the weak hiring of 2025. So here's the thing. Before this report came out, several undisclosed high-level government officials said the January jobs report is going to be a nightmare. In an effort to soften the blow when it actually comes out, several people, remaining unnamed, said, listen, it's not going to be good, so just be ready. So what happens? The exact opposite. We blow away the jobs number. Doesn't make any sense to me. But what's getting lost in here, so U.S. employers added a surprisingly strong 130,000 jobs last month, but government revisions cut 2024-2025 U.S. payrolls by hundreds of thousands. The unemployment rate fell to 4.3. It was at 4.4. So that was better than expected. But the report included, this is the important part. Forget about these 130,000 jobs, and I'll tell you why. These are going to go through 3 more revisions. The correlation between the number that they announce when they first announced this and the final number, once they're done adjusting it, is not good. It's gone from massive positive. One time it went to actually a negative number. So I put almost no stock in this quick number for the previous month is highly unreliable. The standard deviation on that one's makes it almost meaningless for me, in my opinion. The report included major revisions that reduced the number of jobs created last year to just 181,000, a third of the previously reported 584,000, and the weakest since the pandemic year of 2020. So are we in a good market, job market, average job market, or a bad job market? Well, let me just start by saying in 2025, the 2024 adjustment was almost 1 million jobs down from what they were reporting all year in 2024. They said, oops, we were wrong by, I think it was like 910,000 jobs. You guys can look it up. It's something like that. And now here we go again. 181,000 instead of 584,000. The worst year we've had in years. So the Fed has two mandates: to have a healthy job market. How's the job market look? This does not look healthy to me. It's not a disaster. In my opinion, I do think it could look a lot worse than this and has. So it's not like it's a nightmare, but clearly this is worrisome. This is troublesome. We're several years now into these radical adjustments to the downside, with the job market being in reality worse than we think it is. So why would I believe we added 130,000 jobs in January when we added 180,000 jobs all year last year? You tell me. You tell me what you believe. They were expecting 75,000 jobs. On the flip side of this, today we get CPI. Give me a second to find that one. Closed, I can open it. Hold on.
I'm going to do another runoff because you're right. I did forget that one. Sorry. Oh, and I also forgot core.
Are we on the third one or the second one right now?
Third one.
Who won the second one? Oh, I see. Cleanspark runaway.
Seriously? I just think of Jeff Dunham when you say that. Seriously? When he's talking to his little puppet. Seriously? Tom, you seem good with numbers. Would you do my taxes? I need them cooked as well. Just kidding.
Listen,
Tom does not like doing taxes anymore.
I despise it. I never liked it. I despise it. And these aren't the other thing is, remember, these aren't my numbers. So a lot of times when we talk about numbers on this channel, people say, oh, your numbers, your number. None of these are my numbers. These are just the numbers. So now I'm giving it is my opinion on these numbers. I will agree. I'm definitely providing that. So here's my opinion on this number.
The top two will go to the last poll, just so you know.
Last month, CPI was 2.7%. Understanding that in the context of the last 50 years, inflation's been somewhere around 3.5% on the average. The Fed's target rate is 2%. We've actually been below their target rate for extended periods of time. So that is not, I'm not saying that's an unrealistic target. 2% would be great, and we should get to 2%. We've been less than 2%. But 2.7 is less than average. That is better than average inflation over the last 50 years. So this month they said, well, consensus was saying we think it's going down. We think it's going down to 2.5. Well, guess what? Actual comes in 2.4. That's the second lowest inflation number in the last 5 years. Yet, the Fed remains steadfast that the number one thing we should be worrying about is massive inflation because of tariffs. Well, it's been a year, folks. That's over. Whatever shockwave that was going to cause has come and gone. The numbers are now going down month after month after month. We are now 2.5+ years into below average CPI data. Yet, the only thing the Fed talks about is inflation. And it's the talk that you hear everywhere. We got to watch out. Inflation. This is everything's inflationary. That's inflationary. This is inflationary. It's all inflationary. Well, if it's all inflationary, how come the CPI keeps going down for the last 2.5 years? So we'll look at the chart. I'm going to go to the 5-year. You got to go back. We had 1 month where we didn't get any because the government was closed. We got no info. This was 2.4 this month. In April of 2025, we hit 2.3. The last time we were below that was in February of 2021. It's 2026 now. It's February 2026. That's 5 years ago is the last time we were below this number. And you can see, yeah, we sure did have an inflation problem in June of 2022. That's 3.5 years ago. So this is month after month after year of just no outlying inflation numbers. But yet this is the big concern. So I don't get it. And so let's go on. Let's keep going. Just a moment. Okay. This was an article that came out actually last Saturday. Bitcoin's 50% plunge isn't a crisis, says hedge fund veteran Gary Bodie. Bodie, not sure. The sell-off reflects Bitcoin's built-in volatility and he says, and market misreads of Fed policy, not structural weakness. Bodie contends the markets are misreading the nomination of Kevin Warsh as a signal of tighter Federal Reserve policy, and that perception, margin calls and profit taking by large holders drove much of the sell-off. Bitcoin is in the dumps because Kevin Warsh is not who we expected was going to be nominated as the new Fed chair. He was on the short list. So this should not be some stunning event that occurred. He was on the short list. There was 4 people on the short list, and this was one of them. So it wasn't the one, the betting markets didn't think this one was going to be the one. And they look back at his track record and say, well, he seems more hawkish than all the other candidates. Uh-oh. Fed's going to raise rates. The Fed's not going to raise rates. I can tell you the executive branch that makes this selection is on record. They want rates to be at 1%. Not down 1%, at 1% or less. Now, that's not going to happen. Right? We know typically with Donald Trump, when he says something like rates should be at 1% or less than 1%, it's hyperbole. He knows that's not going to happen. I know that's not going to happen. You know that's not going to happen. But what he's telling you is rates need to be a lot lower than they are today at 3.5%. And this is the person he picked. At the end of the day, now they have to get confirmed, right? But one person picks his person. And the person that picked Kevin Warsh is saying they want interest rates at 1% or below, which would be 250 basis points of reductions this year. I'm saying it's going to be half that, 125 basis points. The market thinks it's going to be 50 basis points. To me, that's delusional. There are people that think the rates are going to go up, not down. Some of you might think that because it's a fairly common take right now. So this is what I think the market is getting wrong. And if we are moving into a world where over the next 9 months, we lower interest rates by 100 basis points, we expand quantitative easing. I'm not guessing as to whether or not we're going to do that. We already started doing it in a big way. So, and you know, we just unofficially just started doing it. We were doing in quantitative tightening until December of 2025. A week later, we were pushing money into the market, and we've been doing so ever since. So the quantitative easing is coming. And by the way, sometime after today and before Election Day, everybody's going to get a check in the mail in the United States. That would be my best guess.
Everybody?
Well, the majority of people will get a check in the mail.
I could use a check.
Like what has happened several times before with stimulus checks. This one is an easy one. It's already been labeled. It's already been discussed. It's already on the table. It's a tariff refund. We've collected massive amounts of money in tariffs, and there's already been discussion that they would like to get some of that back into the consumer's hands. So obviously it's a politically expedient thing to do before an election.
Tom,
it's turning into a habit.
It's called a political football. That's what they call it.
Okay.
It's a political football.
That's right. I
can't win, can I, Pogo?
And Katie's saying he's going to back out on Kevin. You watch. So that's not off the table either. He could switch this out. Thank you, Katie, for bringing that up.
I wish he spoke more like George Bush Jr. You know what I mean?
You wish that Trump did?
Yeah. Wouldn't be prudent.
You pick that was George H.W.
Oh, okay, George H.W. He was a really funny talker.
George H.W. got caught checking his watch in the middle of a debate, and the rest was history.
Katie, I'll bet we should do that one on Polymart. That should be my first one. I'm building a Polymart, guys.
George is building a prediction market. There's the prediction markets. I was just reading an article. I don't know what generation we're on, but the two newest ones. This article was all about basically they don't even, it's not even on their radar to buy a house. That's not even the American dream for them. It's unrealistically out of reach. And what they are doing is altcoins and prediction markets.
Did you hear about the guy who ran across the in the Super Bowl? Have you heard about this?
Not at all.
This guy, I don't know, I think like in the third quarter, got on the field and ran. And just ran, and got tackled and got arrested. Well, he made a bet on Polymart.
That somebody would run on the field?
Yeah, and it was him. And he won $400,000.
See, Polymart's still the Wild West. It depends on the format. Like Robinhood does prediction markets, but he would have been disqualified if he tried that on Robinhood.
Wow.
But on Polymarket, it's still the Wild West, and they're not the only ones. This prediction market thing, we are in early stages of. Something's got to be done about it because it's straight up. I don't know why we call it prediction markets. It's gambling.
No. It's straight up predictions, Tom.
It's predictions. I understand.
Gambling is where you're picking a winner or a loser.
Here you're just predicting what may happen in the future.
Exactly. Totally different.
Very subtle difference, but I see your point now. So we'll see. When we're done with these, I'll see what you guys think the Fed's going to do. And you can tell me I'm crazy, but I think it's the single biggest thing that affects the market, Bitcoin, etc. The trade goes risk on in that environment. And I just think that's the cycle we're headed into. So in the past, the 4-year cycle has not had to contend with lingering high interest rates and quantitative tightening. And that's what, even with that, we still got to a new all-time high. But we haven't gotten to the good part yet, in my opinion. And that's why I think this cycle will look different. Somebody saying possible manipulation of numbers this year because of the midterms. I'll just tell you this. I take all the government numbers, whether it be the United States government or any other one on earth, I take them all with a grain of salt. Because
it doesn't matter which party anymore.
That's
They're
right.
all messed up.
Doesn't matter which party's in, doesn't matter which countries you're talking about. They're just different scales of inaccurate, in my opinion. So I don't ignore them because the market doesn't ignore them. So you need to know what they are and understand what's happening, but it doesn't mean they're right.
Tom, we're getting there. We got 78 likes, Tom.
78 likes. Let's make this thing happen. Come on. Smash the like button if you just got here.
Surprise, surprise. Cleanspark is in the lead.
Okay, so let's see who the finalists are. IREN, Cleanspark, CIFR, and Cores made the list.
No, well, we just didn't put them on.
That one wasn't on, so you're putting that. So it was the three winners plus Cores.
We need a petition to be 5.
They won't. They won't do it. They won't do it. But so far, this is a little bit of a runaway. Surprising to me. Cleanspark dominated its division. IREN dominated its division. Cleanspark got 54. The last poll was the runoff.
Right, but then we did it again to put the other two.
It's a double runoff? Okay.
Double one, yeah.
Well, the results seem very similar.
Do you remember when you said to me way back when that the rates would never go up really that much because they didn't want to hurt the American people?
How far back?
Oh, that was probably 8 years ago now. Maybe even it was right around 8 years ago.
Yeah, we had a very, very extended period of very low interest rates, historically low interest rates. My issue is, and I did not think we would move into a high interest rate environment for an extended period of time because of the simple math. And that was back, George, when the debt was, 8 trillion and then, 16 trillion, right? That was George W.'s presidency. He took it from 8 trillion to 16 trillion. And, we were at very low interest rates at that time. Now, I mean, here's my thing. Like, yeah, when we got up to inflation at 9%, we needed to raise. That's why you keep interest rates low. So that if this trend starts to happen, right, look at what we jumped from 1.7, February 2021, 1.7. March 2021, 2.6. The Fed did not change rates. They left them at 0. Okay, All right, it's 1 month. April, 4.2. Terrifying. What'd the Fed do? Nothing. May, 5%. What'd the Fed do? Nothing. June, 5.4. Fed, nothing. July, 5.4. Fed, nothing. Fed, nothing. Fed, nothing. We're now in October. 6.2%. Inflation's off the rails. Inflation's transitory. We don't need to change rates. So had they acted in these months, this would have never happened. And that's my point. So when they got all of this wrong, this stuff spiraled up until here. Now they had a lot of ammunition because rates were still extremely low. So they used that ammunition and they raised rates and CPI plummeted, which is what we know happens. Just why'd they make us do this? Because all of this unaffordability that everybody's complaining about right now, look at this chart. This unaffordability, I can't afford anything. I can't afford it. That's because this 9% doesn't go away as time goes on. CPI data is on top of the inflation that's already happened. This is where we got destroyed. And we haven't done anything to fix it. And I do not expect negative inflation number, negative CPI numbers. We don't get that. And typically if you do, some other bad things come along with it. So they missed this whole thing. They did need to raise rates for what would have been a short period of time, in my opinion, and then lower them. And now they'd be ready right now. If they're so worried about inflation, if rates were at 1.5% or 2% right now, they would have a lot of tools in their toolbox to offset inflation if it started happening. Boom, they could do a quarter basis rate hike, 6 meetings in a row if they wanted to, if they had rates down where they were supposed to be. But now instead, they've left rates unreasonably high, and they've just misplayed this hand, in my opinion. That's I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's my very strong opinion on that.
So, Jonas, if you would have bought XRP when I told you to, you'd still be happy. Here's what I think with XRP, and I believe with well, not all the coins, but I believe with some of the coins, these are life-changing opportunities, meaning that we're changing our financial system. I won't get into it because if I start talking about it, we'll get shadow banned for sure. But I believe we're totally changing, our financial system. And it's scary and good at the same time. Any big change is scary. Because I think that the dollar's dead. And I think everybody would kind of agree with that on this stream. I mean, we have almost $40 trillion of why. Hey, look at it this way. Like or just like Trump, at least he's good with doing bankruptcies, right?
Got some experience there?
Yeah, he's got, right? So, I mean, wouldn't you want somebody who's going to bankrupt the country? Because, I mean, we're here right now. I mean, we can't change that.
There's a lot of work to be done, and we're not doing any of it. And you're right. This is a new sector being added to the market. That's a once in a generation type of a thing. Cryptocurrency is at the very beginning. It's still dipped down back under $3 trillion. There's multiple companies, individual companies that are worth more than all of cryptocurrency put together. So if you think we're in the late stages of this, I would say think again. I think this is the extremely early stages of this. So I think there's a lot of multiples to go. And that doesn't mean it's going to be this month or this week or today. We can look at the short-term technicals, which all to me, I think, if I go back to the 1 day, last week we bounced off of a second biggest dip in the history of the RSI. So catastrophically oversold is not an overstatement. when it's the second worst data point in the history of this asset. We are still in at or near oversold territory. So we're at 35 right now. We've got until 70. And really with Bitcoin, very often it's 80, 85. Every once in a while, it's 90. So we have a long way to go up. And you'll see on the MACD, what do we have? We went down. Our red candles turned into pink candles on the histogram. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You can see we are on the verge of a potential bullish crossover here on the MACD. Now, I've said many times, in fact, I said during this time right here, we could get fooled, right? We had that conversation. This is no guarantee that it's going to happen. We could get fooled, and we did. It went back down again. But now we've got momentum all the way back up. The more likely case scenario by far is that we have next comes a bullish crossover and we have a little run up in Bitcoin. Not a guarantee because that's not how it works. But in probabilities, that is the more probable case scenario. So we seem primed for a nice little run back here. I think we don't spend time between 70 and 80,000. That's just a historical fact. So I think there's a really good chance that sometime sooner than later, we run back to 80,000. That's what I think.
Tom, I forgot to tell you, we're going to dinner with Tucker Carlson tonight.
Really?
No, not really.
That's good because it was probably going to get a little loud if me and Tucker were sitting at the same table.
You know he lives around here, right?
I know.
That's what I was told. Is Hive a U.S.-based operation or still Canada? It's unclear. Hive isn't it Australia, Tom?
No, Hive was Canada, and they did announce they were going to the United States, and I am unclear as to whether or not that has happened yet. I think it did happen, but I need to look that up. They were a Canadian company. They have infrastructure in a lot of different countries. Unlike most of the other data center Bitcoin mining companies, which are highly concentrated in the United States, Hive is not. Now, Bitfarms, another Canadian company, is in the home stretch of switching to their U.S. domicile company. So they expect that to happen at the latest April 1st. I think that's a big deal. Yes, they've moved. So they've moved. And by the way, George, for your peace of mind, they're a Delaware company.
Oh, that's good.
While their headquarters are in New York City, they're a Delaware company. So that's standard operating procedure here for whatever reason. It's kind of outdated, but people are still doing it.
I am a Montana. I have a Montana corporation now, Tom.
Well, there you go. See?
They're the best for fintech banks.
So
whatever that is.
So we'll have to look for Hive. I do know Bitfarms is on the brink of that. And in addition to moving their headquarters to the United States, in addition to incorporating in the United States and changing onto the U.S. stock market, they also moved most of their infrastructure from Canada and Argentina and Paraguay. They pretty much abandoned ship on all of that, and they are building out their power in the United States. So they were trying to do some things that a lot of people warned them that seems extremely risky, and those things did not work out, and they had to dramatically change their game plan. I like their new game plan. I think they're executing very well right now, but they had to make a lot of changes. So I held all my Bitfarms, and when my options ran out, I converted them to stock. So I still feel like there's a lot of upside left on Bitfarms. I just think by the nature of becoming a U.S. company and a Bitcoin run, those two things put together should take it back over $5, in my opinion.
3 more. We need 3 more, Tom.
3 more likes. Let me find another article here. I think it's this one. Zoom in like I used to. Okay, IREN. This might have been today. I don't know if this was today or yesterday.
Tom,
February 12th. It was yesterday.
4:30.
4:30's dominating. So it looks like 4:30, everybody. So can we call it 4:30? And then let's do the, what do we think the Fed's going to do? 25, 50, 75, 100 or more.
What do you mean, for the next chairman?
No, by the end of the 2026, how many basis points is the Fed going to do? Okay. This is important. IREN added to MSCI USA Index. February 12th, IREN today announced it will be added to the MSCI USA Index effective after the close of trading on February 27th, 2026. The MSCI USA Index measures the performance of large and mid-cap segments of the U.S. equity market and represents approximately 85% of the free float adjusted market capitalization in the United States. This inclusion is expected to enhance IREN's visibility among institutional investors and index tracking funds. This is the list. If you remember, time flies. I don't know if it was maybe 6 months ago. There was a gigantic to-do. Microstrategy, now Strategy, started tanking because there was rumor and massive discussion that MSCI was going to take them out of this index. And people were very worried that that was going to be a disaster for Strategy, or Microstrategy, as they were. While the opposite's happening here, IREN's getting added to this list. IREN seems to have mass adoption going on here. And I just think the conversation, we were having it before things turned sour. We were pretty much debating not if, but when is IREN going to get to $100? It ran up to $76. To put that in perspective, it is today trading at $42. So if I go to let's go to their chart. Right? It's not like they were $76 years ago. This was November 5th. It's only February right now. So just to get back to where they were, that's an 83% increase, 82% increase, just to get back to their highs from 3 months ago. So I think there's a really good chance IREN runs to 100 in 2026. IREN, I think, won our contest. Yes. Let me double check. No. CleanSpark. Okay, so final poll. CleanSpark 44%. That came in first place. IREN 35%. That came in second place. CIFR 21%. That came in third place. So there's what you guys think have the best potential and the most upside. So I agree with these. I think CleanSpark is way underpriced. I think IREN has massive amount of upside. On February 5th, I just opened positions in CIFR and TeraWulf. I've been waiting forever to get into those companies, and that was the day. They pulled back, a massive pullback. I was able to get in. They're up like 35 to 40% since I bought them last week. So, and again, that's why I think that was the bottom, particularly for these stocks. you're going to see a lot of the Bitcoin miner stocks. A lot of these are trending the same way. They've bounced off of the bottom on the daily RSI. They're headed towards a bullish crossover. If I go stop that, this is Marathon, right? They look like they're about to have a move up. This is Riot, same exact thing. Look at the MACD. It looks like we're just a day or two away from a bullish crossover. We've just hit neutral on the RSI at 50. CleanSpark. Very similar. Same setup. So a lot of these have a very similar setup, which is why I think that was a good opportunity to buy in. I'm not too anxious to buy in other than BitDeer, which we'll finish up on BitDeer. BitDeer does not look like this. They are resetting. It looks like I don't know if they'll level off here or if they'll do a full reset down to 30 on the daily RSI, but they've been tracking down, and particularly since they reported their financial statements. And I'm just not sure what people were looking at. I guess right now, the only thing I can say is BitDeer has not earned investors' trust, apparently, and investors are going to wait to see, right? And I don't understand that, because I'll show you. Let me show you what I'm looking at. Okay, so we now have only 3 companies. There's 2 others that I don't track because their numbers are not meaningful for different reasons. But BitDeer, CleanSpark, and Hive are the only ones that put a monthly operational report out. Riot. So let me go to this one. This was their December operational report. Riot also announces that this will be the final monthly production and operations update. Going forward, the company will provide quarterly updates focused on the overall business. No more monthly updates from Riot. So, and then there were 3. I don't know if that's going to dwindle down to 0, but I'll tell you this, even if everybody reported, I think BitDeer would have been in first place. Above, you can see they were more than almost 100 above CleanSpark. IREN has similar hash rate. Marathon has a little more hash rate than that, but look at BitDeer's at 63.2%. So what's BitDeer? The market doesn't trust BitDeer. They're waiting for execution. Well, what do you call this? They added 8 exahash in January of Bitcoin mining. They added 7.9 in December. They added 6 in November. They added 6 in October. They added 5 in September. They added 7.7 in August. Do we see a trend here? 5.8 in July. I mean, every single month they dramatically increased. And by the way, if you go back, you'll see they were mining 200 Bitcoin in the middle of the year. Now they're mining close to 700 Bitcoin. So the people who are doubting them operationally, the people who are doubting that they're going to execute on their game plan, I don't understand why that is. Because they've been executing at a very high level. They make their own machines. They sell those machines to the public. Mostly they use them themselves. Are they good machines? Well, they mined 668 Bitcoin. So they're mining at or better than the rate of all their other comparable competition. So they have a good machine. Their cost per coin is good. So their gross profit is good. And they're moving into, they have, here. BitDeer reports financial results in the fourth quarter. So here's what people are fixated on. Okay, total revenue, $224 million. That was more than IREN, which is 10 times the market cap of this. or 8 times the market cap. That was more than CleanSpark. This might have been more than anybody. So I want to go down to power infrastructure, because at the end of the day, companies like IREN has 4+ gigawatts of pipeline for power. CIFR, TeraWulf just announced they're over 3 gigawatts of existing plus pipeline. And those companies are taking off as a result of that. Well, if you look here, power infrastructure, they are currently at 1.658 online, active running, another 1.344 in their pipeline. That's 3 gigawatts of energy. So that means they're already the biggest Bitcoin miner. They're going to be at a comparable level in total energy to all these other companies that have already exploded. Yet this company is being discounted again. They are being graded as somewhere between a D- and an F by the market right now. They got destroyed on these earnings. And I'm going to go back to this week. TeraWulf, their competition, TeraWulf and CIFR, which they have just as much power as either one of these guys. The only difference is they have 5 or 10 times as much Bitcoin mining going on. These guys were up 11% and 14%. BitDeer was down 20% this week on those earnings. It got destroyed. So yes, I added to my already existing BitDeer position this week. I don't know when it's going to catch up. I don't know when money's going to decide to rotate into it. I think this is being suppressed. That's my opinion. That's why I added to it. It's the only thing I bought so far. Well, that's it. That was the only thing I bought this week. Last week, I made my big purchases, and I hadn't bought in a while. So, and again, not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to buy this. I'm just saying, look at the numbers, look at the charts, go through the financial statements, and see what you think. What's your opinion of this company? Because if we go... Go. BitDeer is a $2.2 billion market cap company. What's their direct competition? TeraWulf? $6.8 billion. More than triple. TeraWulf has more than triple the market cap of BitDeer. How about CIFR? $6.4. Just under triple. So why are TeraWulf and CIFR triple BitDeer's market cap? My answer is because BitDeer's underpriced. So let's see what people think the Fed's going to do. Wow. Federal Reserve basis point cuts. 25 basis point cuts is the winner. 50 basis points, and that got 40% of the votes. 50 basis points, 28%. 75 basis points, 12%. 100 basis points, 20%. 1 in 5 of you agree with me on this. 4 out of 5 of you, anywhere from disagree to strongly disagree with me on this one. So we'll see how the year plays out. By the way, you guys agree with the market. That's what the market is saying. It's going to be either 25, 50, or 75.
Well, just so you know, I think it's going to be more than 1.
You think it's going to be more than 100?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that would not surprise me. Less than 1 would.
I think almost out of the gate, you're going to see. When is his first meeting?
June.
June what?
Go take a look.
Dude, if I was him, I'd come out and do an emergency freaking...
June 17th. He'll have been in place...
50% the day he gets in.
I that wouldn't shock me.
I am dead serious too, by the way. I would do as to the next day, because that's what we need. You know how many people are on the sidelines with buying houses is America right now. Whether we like it or not, it doesn't matter. But the housing industry is America. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
It's from an asset standpoint, it's by far the largest thing.
Thank you. And that's what we need to get, the economy moving, get everybody working again, get people happy. I do not believe our unemployment numbers, unfortunately. I think they're all smoke and mirrors.
And I see some are saying that CIFR and TeraWolf already have contracts and BitDeer's just talking about them. Poop emoji. So, an old Joss asking, what efficiency have BitDeer gotten their latest machines down to? I don't know, and they are due to update us on that because they talked about the Seal 3 being at 12.5 joules per terahash and the Seal 4 being at like 6. But they haven't given us an update on that in a bit.
I got to sneak out. I'll see you guys.
All right, George. We'll see you. So that's a good question, old Jock, and I would expect an update from them. They said their fleet's at 17.5% right now. So I don't know what that means. Their fleet is enormous at this point. They make their own machines. They're likely by the next having to swap every machine they have out at this point. If they really can get these things down to 6 or 7 or 8 joules per terahash, it'd be worth swapping them all out. So that's a good question. Let's see. I had a lot of other things, but what am I? All right, I'm gonna get minor sidetrack. I just want to show you what a bubble looks like. And this is a bubble that just will not end because everybody's talking about AI being a bubble. When most of the AI companies, like the ones, I'm including our stocks in that, meaning the Bitcoin mining companies that have invested in power infrastructure and data centers, IREN, TeraWolf, CIFR seem to be the leaders so far. Riot has allocated a massive amount of their power to AI. And they did get a contract as well, a pretty big contract. CleanSpark, it sounds like, is on the verge of getting a contract. So we'll see what happens. All of those companies are very small market cap companies. And they're probably going to make money. They made money last year. They may lose money, depending on how many Bitcoin they have, if they have to do a temporary markdown. I want to talk about Rivian for just a second. Rivian hasn't stopped losing money on its EVs, but is it a buy anyway? So I want to show you what's going on. Rivian up 26% today. 26% today. Rivian's a $21 billion market cap company. That's bigger than any of the Bitcoin mining / data center companies. And why do I bring this up? Because I would point out two things. This baffles me. Rivian posted its first consolidated gross profit of $144 million in 2025. So understand, that's gross profit. That means up until this financial statement, forget net income, they were losing money per car gross. It was costing them more than they were selling them for. Now, Rivian reported a $3.6 billion net loss in 2025. This is a $21 billion company. This company is more valuable by far than all the other Bitcoin miners. There's only one that's anywhere close to this. That's IREN. This company is 3 or 4 or 5 times larger than all the rest of them. $3.6 billion net loss in 2025 and expects 1.8 billion to 2.1 billion adjusted EBITDA losses in 2026. So another couple of billion next year. I'm going to show you one more thing. Just as long as we're counting, if you look at their balance sheet as of December 31st, 2025, this company's lost life to date $27 billion. And this is a $21 billion company. And you're wondering where our companies can go? That's why I bring this up. The upside potential for a BitDeer that's trading at $2 billion, 1/10 what this company's trading at, that's probably going to make a lot of money next year, not lose $2 billion. So the market is a crazy place. And, you know, we've been talking about EVs for a long time. I've been talking about Rivian in specific, and it doesn't get any better. It just doesn't get any better. They lost $3.5 billion. They say they're only going to lose. Their good news is we think we're only going to lose $2 billion next year. So that'll get you up. You know, you're pushing $30 billion lost. I mean, at what point do you say this isn't really actually a company? It's just a money pit. All right. Let me just see if I missed anything else big here. A couple of these I'm going to have to skip, but I do want to show you this one because I think people are forgetting about this. Big tech, and they're only talking about the Magnificent Seven here. Big tech is set to spend $650 billion in 2026 as AI investments soar. You've got companies like Meta and Microsoft and Apple all saying they're going to spend somewhere between $100 and $200 billion in 2026, and then they're going to do it again in 2027. Well, where's some of that money going? They need data centers. This is for AI. So these are the companies that are going to be, already have been, and will continue to sign contracts with our companies that we're looking at here. $650 billion they're spending this 1 year. Right? All these companies put together have a market cap of maybe, I don't know, 50 billion, maybe. So I just think there's a lot more money coming into AI. This talk about a bubble, you know, the big AI companies like NVIDIA have very reasonable price earnings ratios. There'll be some losers long term. You know, there's going to be winners and losers always. There'll be some losers long term. But we don't have a bubble yet because none of our companies are trading at 1,000 forward PE or anything like that, or 20 times book. They're trading at like 1 times book or 2 times book value. So I just think there's a lot of value out there. That's my opinion. I leave you with that thought. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And for those of you who have President's Day off in the U.S., hope that you have a great long weekend. We're just under $69,000. So hopefully by the time we meet again, we will have crossed over 70,000 and be on our way up. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. To the members, we will see you on Tuesday.